And it was with my great pleasure that I introduced Megan Gilhooly from Zoomin, who's going to be talking about how do you use your content and turn it into a KPI smashing enterprise asset. Over to you, Megan.
Very good. Thank you so much. I'm just doing my slides there. All right. Again, my name is Megan Gilhooly. I am Vice President of Customer Experience for Zoomin. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And I want to start out by talking about some snow. If you have been on the Slack channels, you know that in Denver here, we had quite a bit of snow this week, and it was maybe a little chilly, but this was nothing compared to where I grew up. I grew up in North Dakota, and the last year that I lived there, we had 8 blizzards and nearly 10 feet of snow. Now, when that snow melts, it has to go somewhere. And so before you know it, in the spring, we had a river that was usually 300 feet wide. It's now 20 miles wide. It inundated the town. And then eventually a fire broke out due to electricity basically getting flooded. And once that fire broke out, we weren't able to really do anything about it. Everybody was evacuated from town. The firefighters couldn't put it out. It took a long time. 24 hours later, our downtown pretty much looked like this across the board. Just shells of buildings. Now, if you were at LavaCon 2 years ago, you heard me talk about a lot of the lessons I learned being a journalist at the Grand Forks Herald during this particular event. We learned a ton, but I actually want to talk about a different lesson today. And that's one that happened after the flood receded, after the waters went away. Once the waters went away, we heard that there was somebody that was going to donate a whole bunch of money to us, to our city, to the government, to each individual. Each individual was going to get $2,000 to help them recover from the flood. And this was just an amazing thing. So we at the Herald dubbed this anonymous donor the angel. And we wrote story after story about the angel, which of course made people think, well, who is this angel, right? Now, we knew a couple facts. The first was that this angel was a female. And the second, which is kind of obvious, she had a lot of money, right? These are really the only facts we had. And so with these facts, of course, rumors started. So we had rumors starting that the angel was Melinda Gates or Sandra Bullock. Madonna was a very popular rumor. And then the most popular rumor, and my favorite, of course, is that it was Oprah. It had to be Oprah, right? And so everybody had their idea, their opinions about who the angel is. Well, we found out from the mayor that the angel was coming to town. And so what does a good news person do? We send somebody to sit at the airport, because the one thing we realized was this person had a lot of money and she's probably not flying coach, right? She's probably not even flying commercial. So we had somebody planted at the airport watching every single plane, every private jet that flew in, and marking down the identification numbers. Then he cross-checked those numbers with a public database, and eventually he got to who the angel must be. So he had now identified the angel, and this led to a bit of a dilemma. The angel had asked to remain anonymous. Do we print the angel's name? Now, I, as a human being, can take the compassionate route and say, well, she just did an amazing thing for us. Of course, she deserves her anonymity if that's what she wants. But my editor and my publisher thought differently. They believed that the Grand Forks Herald had a distinct responsibility. Not only did they understand that responsibility, but they were going to stand behind it. The first obligation of any journalist, the first obligation of any news organization is to tell the truth. Now, keep in mind, this was 23 years ago when this was still a thing. It may not be a thing today, but that is the responsibility that my paper understood. And so the editor stood up and said, we will not hold the news. We have news. We're not going to sit on it because she's rich. We're not going to sit on it because she did good. We can't hold the news. And therefore, the next day, we broke the story that Joan Kroc was the angel. This is, of course, the widow of Ray Kroc, heiress to the McDonald's fortune. But the thing I want you guys to take from this is that the decision was not made based on compassion. The decision was not made based on opinions. The decision was made based on the responsibility that we had as professional journalists. And they made, I believe, the right decision. So that makes me think about our responsibility today. We're all content providers. Now, we're not necessarily holding up the truth. Yes, we should tell the truth, obviously, but that's not our primary reason for being. Our responsibility today is to create the best possible experience for our customers. And now you might be saying, well, yeah, no, duh. Of course it is. But you know what? It wasn't always that way. I started in TechCom immediately after my journalism career. We were building physical manuals, and we kind of didn't worry too much about customer experience because we didn't even think people were reading our 900-page manuals that weighed 6 pounds and sat on a shelf and collected dust. Our primary responsibility was accuracy. We had to have accurate information. So fast forward to dynamic doc portals. We skipped over all of this evolution. Now we're into a world where we have dynamic doc portals. And these are consumed differently than those books were consumed. And we're more concerned about engagement, and we're more concerned about having it available on multiple devices, and we're more concerned about search. All of this stuff wraps up into customer experience. So the customer experience is far more important today than it was 20 years ago. We really need to have content that our customers will engage with, that they understand, where they can find what they want. And not only that, we have this shift to SaaS, software as a service. Software as a service, in essence, means that our products are online. And between 2018 and 2020, the number of products that have moved from a sort of buy it once and you own it to a subscription model has gone up rampantly. What does this mean for us? This means that at any given time, when a renewal is up, whether that's yearly or at the end of a 3-year contract, whenever that renewal is up, the customer can just leave. They can go anywhere. And so that renewal becomes a new sales cycle where you're constantly selling. And what drives renewals? Customer experience. And this is why I say today, customer experience is our primary responsibility. And because of that, there's an additional evolution here. The evolution from dynamic doc portal to not even asking our customers to leave the product without giving them information. We need in-product, on-demand content. Why? Well, if they're in the product and they need an answer, why take them all over the place to another doc portal or a knowledge base? Keep your customers in the product. If the customer stays in the product, the customer stays focused. That's good for the customer. That's good for your product. Ultimately, a focused customer gets stuff done. That leads to success, and that leads to a better customer experience. So how do we make this happen? Well, I'll tell you the wrong way first. The sort of traditional way, even though it's not all that old. Typically, a product manager would ask a technical writer to document a feature. Now, with in-product help, they would ask a developer to add tooltips or add information inside this window or whatever it is. So what happens? Okay, the technical writer starts getting busy writing about the feature. The developer writes about the feature. They each push it into 2 different places, one in product and one in the portal. And as you can imagine, before long, these two things do not match. They might not match out of the gate, but even if they match out of the gate, as soon as the developer updates the feature and then updates the in-product help and the tech writer doesn't know about it, you have inconsistency. And inconsistency drives dissatisfaction. Customers are not happy when they get two different answers going to two different places. So what's a better way to do it? You have your product manager. Product manager asks the technical writer to document a feature. And that documentation is then pushed into a cloud, which is then pushed to both your help portal and your web application. It is exactly the same content. If you update it once, it gets updated in both places. This just makes sense, and for obvious reasons, leads to a better customer experience. So what might this look like? If this is a web application, let's say, you might have a question mark in the bottom right. You might have some little icons next to certain places on the screen. And you want to make sure that you have context sensitivity. So if they're going to a specific icon, the stuff that shows up in your box needs to match what they're looking at. Your search needs to be exactly the same experience, personalized and unified with the doc portal, because we know that customers might come to our content from inside the product, but the next time maybe they're not in the product and they want to look up the same information again, they're going to go to the doc portal. Our customers are coming to both places, so let's give them exactly the same experience no matter where they are. How does this benefit customers? Well, context sensitivity. This means they get exactly what they want when they need it. They get their answer relevant to them right at the right time. It means that they stay inside the product. They don't have to jump to multiple locations. They don't have to go to a knowledge center and a learning center and a help center. They just stay inside the product and they get their answer. And most importantly, if they do go to one of those other locations, they'll get consistent information because it's exactly the same content. This makes for happy customers. Have to have my dogs in here. They're not my dogs, literally, but who else is happy? This is where KPIs come in. We have all kinds of KPIs in our organizations, right? Your manager is looking at efficiency KPIs. So your manager is ecstatic about this because now there's 2x the output at least per writer. Their writers are writing content once and it's going into 2 locations, if not more. Your product manager, very happy because now you've streamlined the process for them and that shortens the time to market. Your support team leader, of course this person's happy. Why is this person happy? Well, your customers are self-serving inside the product, which means they're not putting in cases. And of course, your CEO is very happy because you have just increased the scalability of your team while also improving the customer experience. There are so many KPIs that you can impact when you really focus on the customer experience and you pull your content inside your product. We can look at adoption rates of the product itself. People are 17% more likely to return as a user in our product if we have the right information there for them. We can deflect cases. We can retain our customers. Remember, SaaS world, renewal is important. We don't want churn. We're retaining more people because they can get more done. They're more successful. And of course, we want to delight them. We want our voice of the customer scores to go up. Net promoter score, customer satisfaction, all of these things are really, really important key performance indicators that we can drive with in-product help. So I want to bring it back to our responsibility. Our responsibility as content producers today is the customer experience. when we make decisions about how we set up in product help, we need to make sure we're thinking about the customer experience first and foremost. Any decision that we make about where we put our product content has to come from this responsibility. Much like at the beginning, where I talked about in journalism, the responsibility is for truth, and the paper said, we're not going to hold the news. Our responsibility here is to make amazing decisions based on the customer experience. And that is what I have for you. I just want to throw out there, we have a really funny video at our Zoomin booth. Please stop by, take a look. We've got people there that you can chat with. Definitely book a demo, come in and win some of these great prizes we have. We don't want to go home with all of them. So thank you so much for allowing me to do this. And I hope to follow up with all of you after. Enjoy.
Okay, Megan, thank you very much.